Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. We begin tonight on the East Coast. The verdict in a hit-and-run case that left a Mi'kmaq youth dead in New Brunswick is sparking outrage across Mi'kmaq. Angel Moore reports.
The reaction was swift after 57-year-old Maurice Johnson was found not guilty in the 2018 hit-and-run death that killed 22-year-old Brady Francis of Elsipogtog. Elsipogtog Chief Aaron Sauk was among the first to express frustration.
There never seems to be a break. We never can seem to get justice for First Nations people.
In a written statement today, Elsipogtog Council said, "What we're surviving now is a further consistent failure of justice for First Nations people. We have not and will never grow used to being treated so inhumanely." The sentiment has been echoed on social media, on Twitter, the hashtag #JusticeForBrady. "I am fully and completely aware that I can be killed and there will be no consequence and repercussions because I'm First Nation in Canada," said Eskasoni Chief Leroy Denny. Hashtag #JusticeForBrady is another footnote in Canada's playbook of how to lessen the lives of Indigenous peoples, Mi'kmaq poet Rebecca Thomas tweeted. Nova Scotia Native Women's Association President Annie Bernard Daisley also chimed in.
From what happened with the court decision yesterday, it was a reality that a blatant disregard to our Indigenous lives still continues to happen in 2020, even after the inquiry and everything else.
A spokesperson for New Brunswick's Office of the Attorney General told APTN today it is reviewing the decision and may file an appeal. Francis's cousin, Charmaine Levi, has started a GoFundMe page for Francis's family and has raised almost $10,000.
The GoFundMe funds will go directly to the family for the appeal expenses and to give them the option to continue seeking justice for Brady.
Many have compared the injustice faced by Brady Francis and his family to the high-profile cases of Colton Bushy and Tina Fontaine. Angel Moore, APTN, National News, Chipuktuk, Halifax.
To Alberta now, where the mayor of Wood Buffalo says one person has died as a result of flooding. Thousands have been forced from their homes due to ice jam flooding in multiple communities across northern Alberta. Tamara Pimentel joins us now with those details.
The Alberta government is calling this a once-in-a-100-year flood. Mayor Don Scott says one person has died near Fort McKay, north of Fort McMurray, as a result of flooding on the Athabasca River. The 25-kilometer ice jam has forced over 13,000 people to leave their homes this week. But Premier Jason Kenney said as of today, ice is beginning to clear and water levels are receding. Premier Kenney said emergency cash is available to evacuees starting Monday, $1,250 for adults and $500 for those under 18. Evacuees are being housed in hotels and work camps and are being monitored for COVID-19 symptoms upon entry. However, the province is relaxing some restrictions in physical distancing for flood volunteers. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Peace River.
After reporting 837 new cases of COVID-19, Quebec is continuing to announce steps in their plan to gradually reopen some parts of the province. Today, the Deputy Premier laid out a new plan to allow more movement throughout the province starting on May 4th. Quebec had set up internal restrictions to prevent people from traveling to different regions.
We are presenting today a plan for the gradual reopening of some of our regions. But we still ask Quebecers to continue to avoid unnecessary trips. Now is not the time to rush to shops outside your region. Unless necessary, you are asked to stay in the area where you are. We are announcing this calendar to allow people to prepare, but nothing prevents it from changing if the situation deteriorates.
Quebec Deputy Premier also confirmed that more members of the Canadian Armed Forces have arrived to help support the province's long-term care homes where the virus has had the worst impact. To Manitoba now, it's the latest province to announce it will slowly begin to reopen. Today, the Premier of Manitoba, Brian Pallister, laid out plans to ease restrictions put in place to prevent the spread of COVID. Beginning on Monday, retail businesses, hair salons, and restaurants with patios or takeout options will be allowed to open as long as they enforce physical distancing rules. One restriction that still is in place is travel. Residents who are not from the north are still unable to travel above the 53rd parallel, which is near Grand Rapids. This is to protect northerners from exposure to the virus. There's still no documented cases of COVID-19 in any Manitoba First Nation. Chiefs from northern communities have called for checkpoints to ensure that people are abiding by the rules. But Manitoba's top doctor said while that's an option, there's been no need to do that. The province will re-examine the northern travel restriction on June 1st.
When we think that there needs to be a public health intervention, we're certainly going to do that, and most times that has an impact. And we can see here that we've had some really strict interventions for Manitobans to follow, but very minimal need to enforce them. And yet our numbers are good. So we can see that Manitobans tend to follow our advice.
We want to hear what you think about these provinces that are slowly beginning to reopen. Here's how you can continue that conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. It's time for a quick break, but when we come back, a COVID outbreak in a Northern Ontario First Nation believed to be linked to an outbreak at a nearby mine. First, the weather for tomorrow in the east and central parts of the country. Starting off on the east coast, we've got 6 in rain for St. John's, 10 in sunshine for Charlottetown. Cartwright, 11 in sunny skies. Kuujjuaq, mix of sun and cloud and 4 degrees. Chibougamau, 5 and rain. Val-d'Or, 10 in rain. Sarnia and London, rain and 15 degrees. Sault Ste. Marie, rain and 10. Sioux Lookout and Thunder Bay, sunshine and 16 degrees. 13 up in Big Trout Lake. 15 and sunny for Thompson. God's Lake is going to be 14 in sunny skies. 21 in rain for Winnipeg and Brandon. 24 in rain for Dauphin. 26 is for Regina and Swift Current, mostly sunny skies there. 25 in rain for Saskatoon. Buffalo Narrows, rain and 15 degrees. Uranium City, a mix of sun and cloud and 9 degrees. Welcome back. White Sand First Nation near Thunder Bay is reporting 5 positive cases of COVID-19. 3 of those individuals have been isolating in Thunder Bay, while 2 are isolating on reserve. A community spokesperson says that the first positive case was a man who works at the nearby Lac des Îles mine. The mine has reported 25 positive cases since early April. Starting next week, the province of Saskatchewan wants to roll out phases of reopening the province. And as we told you earlier this week, Indigenous leaders there think it's too soon. Priscilla Wolfe explains why.
Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Chief Bobby Cameron says Premier Scott Moe's decision to open the province may be too soon.
In terms of opening the phases and open the economy in phases, it opens the door for hopefully it doesn't happen. I mean, the second wave, many say has not happened. That's where we're coming from. It's a safety issue, and we've always said it's been 6 weeks. What's another month or 2 months out of our lives if it means the safety of our children and grandchildren?
Chief Cameron adds he's encouraging each First Nation to continue to do what's necessary to keep their communities safe.
That's where the jurisdiction remains and the ultimate authority with your First Nation, for your people, by your people.
Katrina Maurice, a band counselor for the English River First Nation in northern Saskatchewan, agrees with Chief Cameron that it may be too soon to open the First Nations borders.
I think it'd be a bad idea because as of right now, like I said, we've put in our restrictions on the road. I believe we are still going to do so because of the fact that COVID is in our community.
Maurice adds that the English River First Nation currently has 5 cases of COVID-19, and they are doing everything they can to stop the spread of the virus up to the far north.
It's very important that we keep our guard up until there is a cure, until there is a vaccine.
As a way to help stop the spread in the north, on Friday, April 24th, a public health order went into effect to limit travel by highway to the north. Only essential deliveries and residents traveling for essential needs are permitted to leave or travel to the north. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
The Haida Nation doesn't want any non-residents coming to the island of Haida Gwaii. A checkpoint has been set up outside the BC Ferries terminal and visitors are being turned back. Over a month ago, Haida communities declared a state of emergency, calling only for essential travel to and from the island, located off the north coast of British Columbia. Checkpoints on the island have reported that tourists are still coming to visit. Haida Nation President Gagwis says that the checkpoints are important to keep everybody safe during this pandemic.
Haida Gwaii is in a state of emergency, and we've put in travel restrictions for non-residents and non-essential service workers to come to Haida Gwaii at this time. And so the checkpoints are in place to give information to locals returning home around the need to self-isolate and physical distance and how to be safe during the COVID pandemic.
Last week, the BC government listed hunting and fishing as essential services, but a BC First Nation has asked hunters and wildlife enthusiasts not to enter their territory due to COVID-19 risks. The Tahltan Nation issued a press release asking all non-residents to refrain from visiting their traditional territory, which is located below the Yukon border. Wildlife guardians will be patrolling and asking visitors to leave. The Tahltan Nation say that their resources and healthcare facilities are limited, which leaves their community vulnerable. They also point out that the nearest hospital is 600 kilometers away.
A lot of infrastructure or services up there, which makes us particularly vulnerable if there were ever an outbreak of COVID-19, not to mention the fact that we have a lot of elders in our three communities. So it's very important for us to take all precautions to keep the traffic down.
We've got to take another break, but there's lots of news still ahead, including advice on homeschooling those kids. And here's the rest of tomorrow's weather for the west and the north. To northern Alberta, we've got 13 in rain for Grand Prairie, 20 in rain for Fort McMurray. 20 and sunny skies for Edmonton, 26 in sunshine for Medicine Hat. Penticton, 17 and sunny, 19 in sunshine for Kamloops. Sandspit, 10 degrees and rain, 8 and rain for Dease Lake. 7 and rain for Beaver Creek, 5 and sunny skies for Dawson City. Wrigley, 1 and some rain/snow, 4 and a mix of sun and cloud and Yellowknife. Fort McPherson, -6 and sunny skies. Tuktoyaktuk, -10 and sunshine. Baker Lake, snow and -2. Chesterfield, -2 as well, but a mix of sun and cloud. Joe Haven, -11 and sunshine. Arctic Bay, -9 and snow. Igloolik, -5 and snow. Welcome back. The Alberta Supreme Court has overturned the Alberta Energy Regulator's approval for a $500 million oil sands development. Prosper Petroleum's 10,000 barrel a day mine would have come within 2 kilometers of Moose Lake, a sacred traditional area for the Fort McKay First Nation. With oil prices historically low, it's possible the project would not have started even with that approval. The Yukon continues to have low COVID rates with 11 confirmed cases. However, one of the territory's largest events has been cancelled. Chris McIntyre has more on why there will be no Moosehide Festival this year.
The Moosehide Gathering is a sacred event for the Chumdekwitchin First Nation. Based on the foundation of traditional potlatch, the gathering has been held biannually since 1994 at the village of Moosehide, 3 miles downriver from Dawson City. Moosehide Gathering brings Yukon First Nations together along with Alaskan First Nations and tourists for 3 days of feasts, songs, dancing, workshops, and sharing culture. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's planned event has been cancelled, which was scheduled from July 30th to August 2nd.
Just feel that it's sort of like a sense of loss to our way of life, because everyone gets so excited about the gathering, and it's always so nice to see everyone participate in such a peaceful and substance-free event that really allows everybody to enjoy themselves.
Although the full event won't be going ahead, Chondakwichin Chief Roberta Joseph says there are plans to still celebrate this tradition in a safe way.
This year, what we'll do instead is hold a small ceremony, a prayer ceremony, light the sacred fire in light of the gathering year, and then we'll be doing that just to ensure that we're paying our respect to the sacredness of how much our people value the Moosehead gathering.
That's the gathering I clear my schedule for.
The cancellation has also affected performers like the Flying Gwich'in fiddler Boyd Benjamin. Benjamin has performed at every Moosehead gathering since 2010. He wasn't surprised that the event was canceled over the pandemic and is already looking forward to the next one scheduled for 2022.
Moosehead, it's very near and dear to my heart, and yes, unfortunate as it is, I think we can take to the next time it happens in 2022. We'll all be much better off and more grateful and thankful, and it will be that much more powerful.
Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Dawson City.
During the pandemic lockdown, parents have become teachers overnight. How can families manage these assignments, and what kind of resources are out there to help with lessons? That was the discussion earlier today on In Focus.
When we first started this thing, you know, it was like, hey, everybody's going to get up at 8 o'clock. We're going to have like our little breakfast club from 8 to 8:30, and then we're going to start getting ready, and we're going to get into like doing what we got to do for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just got to the point where that wasn't working anymore because, you know, it works at school, but this isn't school, right? This is home. And so I had to adjust and modify quite a bit. So I started like letting them sleep in a bit and just kind of letting them get going on their own at their own speed. And it just worked so much easier.
Whatever territory, whatever land base that you exist in, you know that you're in that original land base. For us in North America, there are Indigenous groups that have been here for thousands of years. And with that living and being here on this land and this territory, we have a specific education that was created from our own understanding in relation to the land in which we walk, live, and breathe. And we have so many powerful educators that don't have the letters behind their name, like a B.Ed, an M.Ed, a Ph.D., that are at that same level of understanding and that same level of knowledge. And when we share that, what happens is that we start to connect not only to Indigenous ways of knowing, but we find that it attaches itself and it meets outcomes and indicators that are outlined in the provincial curriculums.
I would just say, recognize that this is a pandemic and this is obviously not normal. I think the most important is taking care of the spirit and the mental health of the home and the student and the children, making sure that that comes first. Because of course there's going to be things missed not being in the school, but just do the best you can. That's all you can do. Look for resources. I know that there's many educators out there doing amazing work, and I think just at the end of the day, try your best, and that's all you can do.
Celebrated Mi'kmaq filmmaker Jeff Barnaby's new film is about a pandemic that sweeps the world. No, it's not a documentary, but a zombie film with a twist where Indigenous people are immune to a plague that's brought on by invading masses. Tom Fenario has the details.
At face value, Blood Quantum hits all the requisite zombie film tropes. Blood, guts, screams. It's a brutal trip into the survival of the fictional Red Crow Reserve against invasion. But as director Jeff Barnaby sees it, any apocalypse where Indigenous people have the upper hand can't be all bad.
That's my philosophy as an extreme filmmaker. Nothing I can put on screen will ever be worse than what we survived.
Barnaby says with Blood Quantum, he wanted to bring back a healthy dose of social commentary to the zombie genre. In the film, the Indigenous characters are immune to a plague that turns the rest of the world into the living dead. They spend much of the film warding off invading zombies from the nearby settler town.
As much as it's aimed at colonialism, I think there's a bit of a critique, not even a bit of a critique, but a pretty explicit critique on the post-colonial Native person too, the colonial Indian who seems to think that because they've been treated badly, that in turn gives them prescience to treat other people badly.
The film uses images that reflect famous photos of the 1990 Oka crisis.
I hadn't heard that we were being raided that day.
And by setting Blood Quantum in 1981, Barnaby is making a reference to the year his home community of Listigouche First Nation was raided by Quebec provincial police over a salmon fishing dispute, a point he drives home by filming on the same bridge where some of his fellow community members were arrested.
That bridge, really the first bridge synonymous with a blockade, is the bridge that you see in the opening credits of Blood Quantum.
Blood Quantum had its theatrical release cancelled because of COVID-19, but it will be available to rent or own across all digital platforms as of April 28th. Depending on who you talk to, releasing a zombie film during a real-life pandemic is either a drag or good marketing.
Plan on the pandemic part of any of this. That was just like a happy coincidence.
Jokes aside, Barnaby is disappointed the film won't get to be seen in cinemas. Blood Quantum comes 7 years after his breakthrough first feature, Rhymes for Young Ghouls, and well over a decade after we first started pitching the project. Barnaby wishes there was more support for not only Indigenous filmmakers, but genre films as well.
Let's be honest, like Canada puts out some pretty boring movies. And these guys that make these boring movies keep getting to make them, or they move into television and then they get to make their mediocre there. Why can't like a Native person exist in that same level of privilege, I guess? I don't know.
That hasn't stopped Barnaby from writing his next feature, which he describes as a psychological horror road trip through a post-apocalyptic world.
So that's what I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm still flirting with horror, and I'm still trying to get asses in seats. I mean, that's basically the Jeff Barnaby formula.
Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Montreal.
Perfect viewing material for the ongoing pandemic that we're all living with here. Good to see that it's going to be out now. Well, that's your news for this Wednesday. You can visit aptnnews.ca for up-to-date COVID coverage from an Indigenous perspective if you've missed anything. I leave you with a video from Eagle First Nation in Ontario where security guards have gone viral with their dance, If I Had You Girl, at a COVID checkpoint. It's had more than 25,000 views and has been seen in Spain, Cuba, and across the U.S. They challenge anyone in Anishinaabe territory to share their checkpoint dances too. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.